Hey everyone, I'm Andy Asher. I'm editor of BloomerBoomer, and every week I get to interview some amazing thought leaders and some others, well, with just engaging stories to talk about. Now, this week's guest was particularly attractive because I am a sucker for every one of those legal thrillers ever printed. Now, I couldn't resist the opportunity to hear from a real high-powered attorney turned novelist about a thriller involving high-stakes conflicts of money and power set in the bayous and in the bedrooms and in the courtrooms of Houston, Texas. But let me say this. My guest today has more than a story to tell us and a novel. The Best People, a tale of trials and errors. It's a story about himself. Marc Grossberg, welcome to BloomerBoomer.
Thank you. Let me make sure that The Best People, A Tale of Trials and Errors, the book, is not autobiographical.
Yes, I know, and I kind of ran that together, and I want to make clear that that isn't the case. Now, let me just say this: where to begin? Let's start with you, because despite everything I just said about your book, now the side story is you at 78 with a first novel that at times is raw and coarse, that reminds us of our worst tendencies in life. Now, for a guy who is part of the silent generation, I mean, you broke the mold.
Well, we haven't all been silent. Let me put it that way. And I've always loved reading and writing. And it was time. I'd left a lot of things on the table being a busy lawyer, and I started picking them up and completing this novel and trying to get people to read it.
Good for you. That's what I'd love to hear more about. What was it like to write a book like this? I mean, as a first-time novel, it just makes me think this was your opportunity maybe to purge yourself of all the junk that you witnessed during a 50-year career as a divorce attorney. Am I wrong or right?
Well, one, I was not a divorce attorney. I am a tax attorney.
Oh, a
I
tax
worked a lot with
attorney.
divorce
Okay.
attorneys
Well,
because
that must have its exciting points too.
I had fun the whole time, and I still do. But right now, I'm having the most fun uh, visiting different cities and being interviewed different places because of the book.
For sure. Well, now you must see the side of human nature, I guess. Even in taxes, you must see a side of human nature revealed when people, have difficulties. Are you able to bring this to the book as well?
I believe I have. I certainly attempted to. Uh, the characters in this book, for the most part, are not all bad and all good, especially the principal characters, and in particular, Patty Moran, the the central character, and Pilar, who is the second character. They're uh, really bright people, but they're flawed, and they have to deal with the consequences of their choices. One of the lines in the book is, the physics of life is that creates every choice forecloses other choices. And so as we go along, we see the choices that they make and the paths that they lead to.
What is it about Houston that makes for such a rich backdrop to your story?
Okay, Houston, I mean, from the days it was founded by a couple of land promoters named the Allen brothers, who wanted to make the swamp into a city. Then they dug a ditch for 50 miles and created the port of Houston that comes from the Gulf of Mexico. So Houston has always been a can do is not necessarily the right word. It's always been a meritocracy where people can come here. It doesn't matter who their parents or their grandparents are. They can do something if they're willing to work hard. And so the two principal characters in the book, Patty was a cop in Brooklyn, and he came to Houston to be a cop, and then decided if he wanted to have the kind of recognition and respect that was important to him, he would need to find a different path. And he went to night law school. And Pilar is from the barrios in Houston. And she rose in her own way to social elite.
So that's sort of the story of a Houstoner who maybe comes to the town without lots of natural opportunities and makes the opportunities themselves.
Exactly. And that's the kind of place it is. I mean, I was poor, went to all public schools, and worked my way through college, and I did really well in law school, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. And
you're another example. And whenever I've visited Texas, I've always felt that there is a lot of class consciousness that oozes from everywhere. Your novel reflects that a lot, I felt.
Well, yes, but it's also a very open place. So there is big conflict between the country club set and café-society set. And I mean, there's no really old money in Houston, so it's a little bit older money against new money, but there's plenty of ways for people, no matter what their background, color, ethnicity, to rise to the top in Houston.
Well, you're saying a lot of great things that I'm sure Houston wants to hear, and you said that you did not write.
Well, we've had a lot of crooks too. I mean, we've had Ponzi schemes and Enron, and we've had our share of bad guys, and our share of good guys.
Yeah, it's so. At the end of the day, would you call it a morality story? I mean, what happens? Maybe the moral here could be what happens when people try to achieve money and fame at any cost.
I would call it a morality tale, and bad deeds are punished. But as I said, nobody's all bad. So when people's desire for, in Patty's case, recognition and respect, not so much money, although with money comes recognition and respect, he made some choices that were things that he knew were wrong. And so how he faces the consequences of those choices is an important part of the story.
Where did you pull all these characters from? People that you've met in the years that you've worked there, or from other sources, books that you've read? Where did you pull all this together?
Except for 3 characters who are minor characters, they're all totally invented. I guess they're composites. The cases that are in the book are invented. But you've been around as long as I have. You see a lot of things. You observe, you listen, and then the story just sort of happened.
Yeah. What was? Tell me a little bit about the experience of writing the book. After all, writing is a lonely affair. It's unglamorous, and then you have editors to deal with. It is hard work. How was it for you?
I have lived my life trying to make everything fun. So it was hard work. It was really hard work. And I even closeted myself away in a forest for 2 months one summer and 2 months another summer, just when I decided I got to get this thing done. But I was never lonely, and I must have wanted to do it. I couldn't have been bored because I kept doing it,
Yeah. And what have you learned? Is it about luxury cars, tailored suits, fancy clothes, eating at all the right places, restaurants? I mean, they're all part of the veneer of success. How important are those appearances in today's society? Is it important to fake it until you make it, as they say?
I would like to think that that is not the case, but frequently it is the case. And so, dress for success and be at the right places and have the right table at the right places and things like that are important to some people. And and it works for some people.
It certainly does, and for others, they may live to regret it. But you've been part of the court system now for a long time, and one thing that you make clear is that America is a litigious society. Do you think that our courts apply justice equally without regard to wealth and power or status? And if not, what can be done to fix the system?
Okay, I don't think the system's fair. It's rigged against poor people. It's rigged against middle class people because it's expensive. And if you're up against the government, they're powerful. And I realized when I took a case that was a pro bono case, um, that sometimes the most important thing you can do as a lawyer is just let your client know that they are not alone when having to go up against the awesome resources of the federal government, or just be involved in the legal system, even in a civil matter. Uh, Even a rocket scientist is not comfortable having to deal with all that. And
Yeah, and especially in your profession, where details and exact numbers and all that are so important, and then going into your creative mind and pulling something like that together, they seem almost like contradictory capabilities. So you've been able to handle both of those two sides of the brain, you might say.
yes, and I kind of think I'm probably somewhat ADD, so I couldn't stay in the box, which is one reason why I didn't practice accounting. So I really made a living by thinking outside the box, just making connections that other people may not have seen, and getting a result for a client that other people might not have been able to get.
Yeah, something that I ask everyone on our shows is if there's any takeaway or something that we can learn from what you've done. Uh, Maybe what would you tell them?
Okay, so takeaways. I think my personal takeaways, and it may be evidenced by what I'm doing now, is at a certain point, I realized that I had to accept the consequences of all the choices that I had made in life. And no shoulda, coulda, woulda, and no being envious of other people. I am who I am because of the choices that I made. And just go forward from that. And the other part is living in the now. I mean, I am in the now. And I've even maybe even might be doing a long personal essay called Going Wherever My Green Light Tells Me the Intersection Might Be Interesting, Living in the Now. Uh, and so doing this book uh, has been a very exciting now for me. I didn't realize that you write a book and then it gets published and you think, oh, well, I've done it. No, not true. Because, when you're 78, now 78 and 11 twelfths, when you're 78-year-old first novelist that's not famous, then nobody's going to buy that book if you're not doing whatever you can to bring attention to the book. Uh, and, and I've had just a lot of fun and interesting times going throughout the uh, countries. Well, Los Angeles, San Francisco, I have New York coming up. I just did a reading in Asheville, um, some TV interviews.
So it's opened up opportunities and experiences that maybe you didn't predict.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Not really anything I particularly envisioned when I was writing the book.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, I'm just having a great time.
That's Marc Grossberg and his novel, The Best People, a tale of trials and errors. And you can find it anywhere. Also, you'll find it at BloomerBoomer and all the regular places. Take
Andy,
care,
I
everyone,
appreciate
and
it.
we'll see you next time.
Thank you.